construction, finance. It's a great group that has looked at this project. I think it's, in terms of the cost, yes, you see the cost, it's over $107 million. It is a large number, but when you consider that the state is going to reimburse us somewhere around $47 million for this project, those are your tax dollars. If we don't take advantage of it, those are your tax dollars that are going to go elsewhere. So we have an opportunity to take advantage of this. We should do so to benefit all. So as I have been supportive and I pledge this evening, I'm going to vote in favor of this project. I ask everyone in the community, as well as every board member here, to pledge your support for the project and pledge to vote for the project. And in fact, you can show your support for it by actually going to the advocacy group's website, which is investinnorthreading.org. You can actually lodge your pledge to vote in favor of this project. I encourage all of you to do so. And I hope all my board members would join me as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Yule.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. With regard to, hopefully, our new schools. I realize that some of the questions that we have out there with regard to it being a hardship on personal families and sacrifices that they have had to endure. But I can honestly say that every time a school project comes forward, it is of need. We don't do this because we just want a new building for it to look good. Our schools, our teachers have provided our students an excellent competitive education with facilities that hamstring them from doing an even better job. And for those who feel that a new building doesn't guarantee a better education, in our system here, we have a good education. It can be better. How much? It's not important. It will be better. And our children will be brought up to current technology and greater opportunities, just like we have with NORCAM with the great program that they offer there. It's top technology. So this is very important for the children. With regard to being able to afford it, it's two schools pretty much at a price that is very affordable. When you think about it, our overall cost will be about $10 million difference if we build versus we don't build. And it's $10 million, $5 million per school is what we're going to be gaining if we're able to approve, if the community would approve the new schools. For those of you who this is financially difficult for, I understand that. It is tough, but we have to make sacrifices. They're not easy. They're never easy, and they're not going to be easy next year or 10 years from now. So I am in support of our new schools because I believe sincerely that the community as a whole will benefit from the newborns in our community to the seniors in our community. Everyone will benefit. So I am in support of the new schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yule. Mr. Prisco.
I just want to maybe build a little bit off of what you're saying, Jeff, because you used the word savings, $10 million savings. I don't think there would actually be any savings. It'd actually be such a significant loss to the town, because that means we've just invested $50 million into the same facilities our children are in today. They'd still be getting educated in a 20th century structure and no technology enhancements to actually prepare our kids to get educated in the 21st century and to work in an environment in the 21st century. So, you know, if there's people, and I know there's people out there that hear this number, about $47 or $50 million, if we vote this down, we're still gonna have to spend in these schools. I really encourage you to please go to the websites. It's the Secondary School Building Committee, the Invest in North Reading websites, and contact someone and get a tour. Walk through that facility, and if you're elderly and you need help, we will get you the assistance to get you through the facility or to see a video. or if you just don't want to do that, to pick up the phone and have a discussion to understand it more. I can't encourage it more, because to vote no, you really are going to waste your money. There is no savings. At the end of the day, it's a huge loss, and I can't emphasize that much, and I please encourage you to do that. And I am in big-time favor of this. It's a great opportunity. And thank you, Mr. Delaney, and all the secondary school building committee members and the advocacy group for all your time and effort. I know this isn't easy, and I give you a lot of credit. Thank you.
Mr. O'Leary,
My turn.
comments? You can pass.
Having gone through North Reading Middle School, North Reading High School, I can assure you that the North Reading Middle School, when I went through and got out in 1968, is virtually the same school today that it was then, with the exception of it's had a new roof, it's had a new gym floor, it's had a new boiler, and it's had a whole bunch of modular classrooms added to it. And that's about the only change in investment we've made since the school was opened in 1964. That school has served us well, but it's also outlived its useful life, and technologically, structurally, just isn't there and requires a significant amount of work. Just that facility alone. I was extremely pleased when the Secondary School Building Committee and this board and the school committee advocated to the School Building Assistance Bureau to combine the two projects, the high school and the middle school, because the economies of scale that are realized by sharing the core facilities saves us millions and millions of dollars, and again, also saves us, provides us an opportunity to keep our kids housed in North Reading during the transitional period when these schools are fixed up. In other words, we get to do the project and still keep the kids in North Reading. If you recall, when we did the bachelor school, we leased an old school down in Stony. So the disruption is not going to be as significant as it could be if we were just doing one school at a time, and or one school alone. As I said, my parents' generation invested significantly. I mean, they built a high school, a middle school, and in between that, three elementary schools inside of a 7-year time period. And it served us well for the last 60 years. We have, our generation now, has taken care of our elementary schools. They're in pretty good shape right now because we made those investments over the last few years, but it's now time to address the high school and the middle school. And as I stated earlier, the economies of scale of combining the two facilities is huge, a huge savings. The cost of maintaining these two facilities and bringing them up to snuff, a $10 to $15 million difference, and you're going to be with the old facilities are brand new, to me is not a good deal. And in addition to that, it's not going to cost you any less. It really isn't going to cost you any less money, because the way that we have to finance those types of improvements can actually cost us more money in the long run. I realize, again, this is a very difficult financial decision for a number of people in the community. And we're asking people to make a significant sacrifice where we're going to be paying for this facility over 25 years. That's the most fair way of doing it, because the people who are going to be moving out within the next 5 years and transitioning to other types of housing or somewhere else, again, just be passing it on. Those who are going to be utilizing it will be paying for it all the way along the way. And it also evens out the payments, because if we were to finance it the traditional method, it will be very heavily weighted up front, and instead of a $700 a year increase, you're looking in excess of $1,100, $1,200 for the average household up front for the first 11 or 12 years. So this is a very fair way of handling it. It's a wise investment, and as Mr. Delaney pointed out, this is our money, our taxpayers' money that's available for cities and towns to meet the needs of their school system. Well, let's take advantage of our money being utilized here in North Reading and don't let it go somewhere else. Again, while I can sympathize, and I know a number of people that would struggle with the extra $700 a year, whatever it's going to be, the overall good for the community as a whole and the future of this community in relation to where we stand in comparison to our other communities around us from a property value standpoint, from an educational standpoint, the investment we're making for our children, it's a small price to pay, and we need to make that investment. So I would urge everybody to really pay attention to it over the next few weeks, because you're going to be provided with an awful lot of information. Look at the Secondary School Building Committee website. Go to the investinnorthreading.org website. Host host a meeting at your home for your neighbors, which you can do through the advocacy group, and ask people to come and listen. You don't have to be for or against it at this particular point. Get the information to make an informed decision. I personally will be supporting it. I urge everybody else to do so, and I look forward to having some additional dialogue over the next few weeks with a lot of people about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. Some time ago, I had the honor of serving on the school committee for 12 years, and I can say back then, both the middle school and the high school were reaching a point where they needed a lot of work. And the facilities that were built many years ago weren't built to handle the science, technology, and programs that are needed for our students to survive and to become viable members of society as they grow up and go to college. Some people say, well, the time isn't right. Well, we are in an economic downturn, but you could say the time is never right. I can say here today that the time is right. It's right for a number of reasons. One reason is that we are going to get between 47 and $49 million from the state. That's our tax money coming back to the town. That reduces the overall cost of a new high school, refurbishment of the middle school and the core facilities to somewhere in the vicinity of $58 to $60 million. It's a good investment. It's needed, and I would urge everybody to not vote your pocketbook, but look to the future of North Reading and our students. And clearly, I am a big supporter of this project and will be voting clearly in favor of it. So with that, I will entertain a motion, Mr. Prisco.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend Article 1, the high school/middle school project, to be voted at the March 19, 2012 special town meeting.
Second. I'm a little anxious because I'm so in favor of this project.
Mr.
I'm informed that the Finance Committee met this evening and also voted to recommend.
That's good news.
Motion by Mr. Prisco,
I
seconded by
second
Mr. Delaney. I heard that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Next item on our agenda is to approve the snow and ice deficit spending. Mr. Belkonis.
Hi, board members. From the last meeting, the board asked that I go back and look at a number of items related to snow and ice, and I did send out a memo on it, but let me summarize what it says. The snow and ice deficit as a result of some reclassification of expenses related to the DPW facility renovation. The deficit is $7,838.37. And the reason for that is reassigning costs on the DPW garage renovation totaling $25,582.68. And these costs were assigned by the Finance Department to other budgets within the DPW. So they were removed from the snow budget, which reduced the actual snow deficit. The board also asked me to report on the tree removal cost associated with the October 2011 storm, and unfortunately, those costs were high. They were $52,757.09, of which the majority of it relates to private tree contractor work in town between November 1st and November 12th. So there was $30,125 spent in private tree contractor work. And also the DPW personnel incurred significant overtime of $12,971 during that period of time. There are other associated costs included with that, and it's our expectation that upon application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, we'll receive a significant reimbursement, hopefully 75% of that amount going forward. The deficit is primarily attributable to that October 2011 storm. And the board had also asked me to look at some overtime hours that have been incurred in